She thought it was just another ordinary shift. Cleaning rooms, answering calls, invisible in the eyes of the wealthy guests around her. But one unexpected phone call changed everything. With a single word, spoken in a language no one imagined she could know, the entire room froze. And when a powerful millionaire overheard her, curiosity turned into something far greater. Was this the moment her life would finally be seen? Or would it expose a truth the world wasn't ready to face? Stay with me, because what happened next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Her name was Amara. To the world, she was just a hotel maid, quiet, invisible, moving from room to room with a cart and a polite smile. But behind those tired eyes was a woman who carried more than anyone could imagine. Each day began before sunrise, scrubbing floors and changing sheets, while guests barely glanced her way. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept food on the table, and she told herself that was enough. Yet Amara wasn't ordinary. Long before life pushed her into this uniform, she had dreamed in different languages, studied words most around her couldn't pronounce. That part of her life felt buried now, hidden beneath years of being overlooked. But fate has a way of testing what we try to hide. Because one afternoon, in the middle of her routine shift, an unexpected call came through. The moment she answered, her voice carried something that didn't belong to the world people thought they knew about her. And someone important was listening. She had no idea that this single call would not only change how others saw her, but would force the world to confront its own assumptions. What began as a simple day of work was about to become the moment that revealed just how dangerous it can be to underestimate someone. At first, it seemed harmless, a routine call from a guest needing service. Amara answered politely, her voice steady, her tone professional. But when the guest switched languages, something inside her sparked. Without hesitation, she responded in flawless Dutch, a language she had once studied long before life had pulled her into the shadows of hotel work. The words flowed naturally, confidently, as if she had never left that world behind. What she didn't realize was that someone else had been listening. A wealthy businessman, a man whose presence commanded respect the moment he stepped into the lobby, overheard her. His eyes narrowed, not with admiration, but with suspicion. To him, it didn't make sense. How could a maid, a black maid, speak a language he associated with education, wealth, and privilege? Instead of seeing her skill, he saw a challenge to his assumptions. The whispers began quickly. Other staff exchanged glances, some impressed, others uneasy. It wasn't long before the businessman approached her, his tone dripping with disbelief. "Where did you learn that?" he asked, as though the very idea of her intelligence needed to be proven. In that moment, the air grew heavy. Amara's hands trembled as she tried to explain, but his stare cut deeper than words. It wasn't just curiosity, it was judgment, wrapped in the kind of arrogance that said she didn't belong in his world. Guests nearby watched, some smirking, some silent, but none stepping in. The tension rose with every second, as though the hotel walls themselves were closing in on her. And then came the test. The businessman didn't just want to hear her speak again, he demanded it. Right there, in front of an audience that treated her like a spectacle, he pushed her to perform, to prove herself worthy of his attention. Her heart pounded, her voice nearly cracked, but she spoke. And with each word, the divide between them grew sharper. But what Amara couldn't see, at least not yet, was that this moment was about to set off a chain of events far bigger than a single conversation. Because when pride, prejudice, and power collide, the fallout is never small. And this was only the beginning. The room fell silent. All eyes were fixed on Amara as the millionaire leaned closer, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "Prove it again," he demanded, louder this time, as though her very identity was on trial. The weight of his words pressed down on her chest. She wasn't just speaking Dutch anymore. She was fighting for her dignity. Her throat tightened, but she spoke anyway. Each syllable rang with precision, carrying years of education, sacrifice, and hidden brilliance. Yet, instead of applause, laughter erupted from a corner. A few guests whispered, their smirks dripping with disbelief, as if intelligence couldn't possibly belong to someone like her. Amara's hands clenched at her sides. Anger burned through her veins, but so did fear. She knew too well what it meant to step out of line, to challenge someone with power. The businessman wasn't impressed. He was offended. His pride couldn't accept that a maid could hold knowledge equal, or perhaps superior, to his own. And with every word she spoke, his scowl deepened. Then came the blow. "You're lying," he spat, dismissing her entirely, as if her skill was nothing more than a trick. Gasps rippled through the room. She stood frozen, shame and fury colliding inside her. This wasn't just a moment of prejudice. It was public humiliation, crafted to remind her of her place. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The walls felt like they were closing in, the air too thick to breathe. She wanted to disappear, yet something inside refused to break. And as silence stretched across the lobby, everyone waited. Would she retreat into invisibility again, or rise against the weight of every cruel assumption pressing down on her? This was the moment, the turning point, the line between silence and defiance, and whatever she chose next would change everything. Amara stood there, her heart pounding, the sting of humiliation burning deep. For a moment, it felt like the entire world had conspired to silence her, to remind her that no matter what she knew, no matter what she achieved, society had already decided where she belonged. But instead of retreating, she chose to stand tall. Her voice, steady, unbroken, echoed in the lobby one final time, carrying not just Dutch, but English, French, and the quiet strength of someone who refused to be invisible. The room shifted. Whispers turned to uneasy silence. Some looked away, ashamed, while others stared with wide eyes, forced to confront the truth they had denied. The millionaire's power, once so overwhelming, now looked small against the undeniable reality of her brilliance. He had tried to shrink her, but instead he exposed his own prejudice. For Amara, the moment didn't erase the pain. Racism never vanishes in an instant, but it did ignite something powerful. The realization that her worth was never defined by those who doubted her. Her story became more than humiliation. It became resistance, a reminder that silence only strengthens injustice. And beyond the walls of that hotel, her experience speaks to something far greater. How many Amaras are out there, talented, intelligent, overlooked, because the world chooses not to see them? How many voices are dismissed before they're even heard? This is not just her story. It is a mirror held up to society, showing us the cost of prejudice and the strength it takes to rise against it. So, the question lingers. Will we continue to turn away, pretending not to hear? Or will we finally listen? Because every time a voice like Amara's is silenced, the world loses more than just a story. It loses the truth we all need to face.